Homeschool parents, this is a message for you. As a homeschooler, I know you work hard for us. You have many different things to manage.
Our Thinking, Feeling, Willing program is your roadmap to a successful Waldorf homeschool journey. Gain the confidence you need to be the teacher your child wants and transform your homeschool experience. Homeschooling with Waldorf Essentials is one like no other. You not only have curriculum options, you can also add our Thinking, Feeling, Willing program onto your curriculum. What's in the Thinking, Feeling, Willing program? Rhythm, inner work, temperament, the Waldorf curriculum, learning and strengthening your skills in music, circle time, form drawing, handwork, painting, drawing, modeling, festivals, reading, writing, spelling, eurythmy and movement, and our bonus content. Something else you'll get when you join Waldorf Essentials that you will not find anywhere else is the community, and we all need that as homeschoolers.
This is your invitation to fill your cup. We know you're rooting for us. We are rooting for you too.
Welcome to this week's podcast. I'm Melissa Nielsen, and I am super excited for the content that I'm sharing today. This is a space that we get a ton of questions about, and a lot of parents get really nervous when we get to this middle school, high school space. And I'm hoping that today, after you're done listening, that you can relax just a little bit and not be so stressed, because it really is a beautiful time, a fun time, a time to really get to know your child and really start to see the adult that they're going to become. So I want you to take a deep breath and join me as we walk through these pieces and really just sort of help you in this middle school and then high school space. So we are breaking this podcast into two pieces today. We'll have some general information in this first piece and then some more detailed information in the second piece. So in this first piece, I would say my biggest secret, and as of the filming of this, I should back that up. I should say, especially if you're brand new to us and you don't know me from anybody, you might be thinking, why is this lady at all qualified to speak about this? So I have 5 children, and I am just getting ready to homeschool my last middle schooler. So she will be in class 7 in the fall. I'm filming this in 2024 in May. And so she will be in class 7 in the fall. And so I've walked through all 5 of my children. We've walked for this space. And, I've graduated children out of this space too. And I've done that in a couple of different ways. And I'm actually going to talk about that as we're sort of walking through this podcast today. So you might want to pause me, go grab a pen and a piece of paper, because you're probably going to want to take some notes, or listen to me once and come back and listen to me with note taking in mind. So again, like I said, I've got 5 kids. 3 of them are adults and grown and gone. And I did something different with all 3 of them. My oldest ended up taking the GED when he was a junior. My second son ended up going to public high school when he was in 10th grade. My oldest daughter, we did a transcript for her, and she was actually done because of all of the numbers. She was done when she was a junior. So we're doing something different with child number 4. That's Super Sam, for those of you who've been following us for a hot minute. So Super Sam is just about to go into his senior year at our Seasons of 7 high school. Now, what are we doing with the youngest one? The youngest one, I think, will probably just walk with me, much like I did with my oldest one and my older daughter, as we walk through the space. And she will probably take more classes at some point, but I'm not going to be putting her in our Seasons of 7 virtual school at this time. And that's really only based on her, because when I hired those teachers thinking about, well, would I want them to teach my child? So they're all amazing human beings. But again, we're looking at the child in front of us. So that's the number one piece I want you to take away today is who's in front of you. Stop listening to all of the other things. Stop reading what other homeschoolers are doing. Stop thinking about what's happening at the Waldorf school. Stop thinking about all those other places, pieces, all that stuff, in-laws shouting at you, all these people shouting at you. This should be a conversation between you, your partner, and your child. That's it. It should not have anybody else's opinion. So when you're getting ready to sort of like embark on this journey, it's really important that you take a good look at who's in front of you. So take a look, like, who is this child? Spend some time in meditation and in prayer for this child. If you have never done that before, now is definitely a time to start. I talk about doing that from the beginning, from the time that they're little, like really asking God, whatever name you put on source, asking that entity, asking your higher self, asking source, how do you see this child? How do you see this child? And then really take the time to shut your mouth and sit and listen. We spend so much time talking about where we think they need to go that we forget to stop and take the time to realize that they may have come through us, but they don't belong to us. These are children that are like we've been raising them, we've been mentoring them, we've been walking with them, but they don't belong to us. They have a life and a trajectory that is all their own. And if we neglect to see that or neglect to support that, it's going to cause some sort of trauma in their life. And I don't know about you, but I'm 51 years old. I've dealt with enough trauma in my life. I don't want to give any more trauma to my children that I don't have to. So like it is a space that is super, super important to me when I'm working with families and we have these one-on-one chats. I go, well, who is this child? Because if you can't tell me who this child is, then you have to stop and you have to start there. That is the number one important piece. Who is this child? And I have my notes here, so I'm looking down, that's why. You really want to ask yourself this question a lot, like every few months or more. You know, I make it a practice to pray for my children every day, like each one of them. It takes a long time because I've got 5. Then I'm like praying for the dog too, praying for my husband, and, you know, taking that time to like just say to their angels, what do they need? Is there something I'm missing? How can I serve this child? How can I show up for this child? And yes, it's important in 3rd grade, but you can sure bet it's really important in middle school and high school. Excuse me, because they are coming up with this space of their intellect is born and they've got all these ideas and we don't get to pick the direction that they go with their lives. Just let that sit in for a minute. Like, our job is to sort of guide them. But you know, if you've got a child that you thought ever since they were in 3rd grade, they were going to go to college and get this master's at Harvard and become a doctor, but that's not what this kid wants to do, you've got to sit down and you have to listen to what this child wants to do. Because you don't want to push a child into a career or into a way that is not going to be the way that their soul is craving. So I think it's really important to ask yourself regularly, and you might get a post-it note, a few post-it notes, and put them in many places that you see. Who is this child? Who is this child? So the next thing I want to just impart is that like everything isn't scripted. So, you know, we have guides for middle school and we're working on guides for high school. Hopefully by the middle of summer, 2024, we'll have all of those finished. But there's a reason why they're not laid out day by day. You know, our lower curriculum is laid out for each day. Each day, we hold your hand through that space. We hold your hand through that space because you are wearing many hats, trying to parent, trying to figure this Waldorf thing out, all of those pieces. But when we come to this middle school space and the high school space, it's different. It's different because they have sort of grown beyond this place. I can remember years ago, one of my Waldorf mentors said, truly, we're done giving the content at the end of 8th grade. Now just let that soak in. After that, we're mentoring them into this next space. We're still providing that boundary, still providing that, space so that they know that they are held, and really looking at their development, because the changes don't stop with the 9-year change. There's 12-year change, there's 15-year change, there's an 18-year change, and they're really not finished with that space until they're about 21. So we need to stop thinking hey, this is where my parenting ends. I'm going to send them off to college and I don't have to think about it again, because that is not how it works, my friend. So if that's something that you've got going in your mind, I want you to sort of slow down and really think, who is this child? And am I trying to script too much in their life? And by saying that it's not scripted, that doesn't mean you're not holding lessons. It does not mean that at all. In fact, you are definitely holding lessons. But I tend to, in about middle school, really start to shift from this is exactly what we want to get done in a week, and scripting what happens on each day, to a more of, well, this is the content I want to cover for the week, and we're going to just start and see what we get done on Monday, what we get done on Tuesday. Sometimes we might be done early, by Wednesday, where I'm okay, well, we got through all that content this week. It must have been a little bit easier. Next week I can pile on a little bit more. But I'm not offering a daily script anymore. And I'm not doing that because we really want, this is world according to Melissa. We really want them to have that freedom. We really want them to feel the boundary and know what we expect of them. And so having an expectation is really important. Just because you're not scripting doesn't mean you're not expecting. So, I can remember when my oldest daughter, when we were working through this space, I would say, okay, well, this is our topic for the week. These are the things that I'm providing main lesson on, or, you might watch a documentary on something. We'll have a conversation about it. There's this book over here that you're reading, but I'd like to see one really good written art piece, or really good written piece for the week, and one art piece for the week. And so that shift from main lesson work, and then art, main lesson work, and then art that you're doing in those early grades, it really starts to shift here. So it really is going to depend on your child and on how deep you go into some of these blocks as to whether or not you're, requiring one writing piece or two writing pieces, or, one art piece or two art pieces. One thing that I think is really important is that Steiner was really about allowing themselves to unfold, especially in these places. Once the intellect is born, which is around 14, their mind is going in so many places. That doesn't mean we swing open those barn doors and let them have access to everything. No, don't do that. Instead, it means you're bringing those barn doors open just a little bit here and there, and giving them more and more exposure, and allowing more things in so that they can start to form those opinions and have those thoughts on their own, and really sort of live to that space that they are developmentally. We don't want them to be parrots of us. Some parents might want that. I don't want that. I do not want parrots of myself. In fact, it's always been very interesting to me that my older three were we had completely different political ideas for a long time. And then I shifted, they shifted, and we came back into, alignment, if you will. But my job was not to try to make them be what I was. My job was to allow them to understand the opinions. And I was always you can have that opinion, but I want to give you what I see as the truth, and here's some things that I can show you that are, from trusted resources that I think are truthful, and then you can make up your own mind. So we're kind of in this space with them when they're in middle school and definitely moving into high school. And it's really a beautiful space to be. So as you are getting ready to lay out their blocks, you're definitely going to have a spine, and we actually have in our free resources on our website, we have just sort of the layout of all of the blocks of the full Waldorf curriculum, so you can get your mind around like what it is that you're bringing them this year. But it's also this time, especially with middle school, it's time to evaluate placement, making sure that placement is pretty spot on. I mean, people said to me all the time when I had Super Sam waited until he was fully 7. So June was his birthday, and he waited until that fall to start school. And the same with Soraya. She turned 7 in April, and we waited until that September. We had tried a dry run in January. It wasn't happening, so we waited. And people would always say to me, are you regretting that he's going to be like fully 18 going into his senior year? And guess what? Nope, not at all. Because what I'm seeing unfold is the man before me. And he still has us holding him in that space. But he is like almost in a few weeks a full man. And having that space is it's actually really humbling as a parent, and I wouldn't change anything. I asked him a few weeks ago, I said, if you want, we can work on a few things and we can write a transcript and you can be done. And he's like, nope, I want this extra year. So a lot of families will do a gap year before they start thinking about college. That's totally fine. But I don't want you to be worried if your child is a little bit older going into this grade that, oh no, they're going to be so off from their peers. Is Sam off from his peers? Well, yeah, he's got some friends that actually have a birthday the same week as him, and they're a year older in school. Guess what? They're not more mature than he is, like at all. So like keeping those things in mind, I think are really important. So again, like thinking about placement, making sure that they are in the space, especially with the Waldorf, in the space that they should be for their age. I think it's super important. And then I think you really need to evaluate where you are. So if you are just heading into middle school, like do an evaluation of your child and be really honest with like where are you with school in general, like how have things gone? Are you on track with where you wanted them to be by this point? If not, like what things need to shift? Are there things you need to catch up? And when I say catch up, I'm not saying stress about it, like at all. Like take a deep breath and decide. I actually had this conversation in office hours last week. Somebody was like, okay, so I have to register my child in class 9 with the state, but we're not done with the class 8 content. Do I just dive into the class 9 content? No. Do not stop the content just because you have to like conform to a government entity. So you would still register class 9, but finish up that class 8 work as you're coming into class 9. And I wouldn't bust your hump over the summer to do it. If you want to, if it makes sense to do some things over the summer, that's sure. But there's no reason why you can't have those blocks be at the beginning. So for us personally, like I said, Soraya is going to be in class 7. There are some math pieces that we're going to be working on over the summer, just so I feel more confident heading into class 7 math with that pre-algebra space. I want her to feel confident and comfortable. And guess what? If we don't get it all done this summer, it's okay. Why is it okay? Well, I don't know the last time you walked over to your neighbor and knocked on the door and said, hey, can you tell me what reading level you're on? How about math? Like, oh, so you're a grown up, you went to college, but you only have math 101? Like the world doesn't work that way. So it's really important that we see our children as individuals, and we're not putting our children in that space. We're not putting our children in the place of wanting or needing to conform to these places, because it's not necessary at all. So again, don't have a lot of stress like when it comes to the space of like playing any catch up that you need to play. Just evaluate. And like I say in Planning for Peace, try to evaluate without bunch of drama, data over drama. So don't get hard on yourself. Oh no, I didn't do my job as a teacher. Don't play that game. You are where you are. Be where you are and just decide what else needs to happen. And ask yourself, are there things I want to hire out for? Like, I think it's a perfectly fine conversation to have on a regular basis. If you don't feel like you are able to hit all the pieces with the curriculum, hire out. Ask somebody for help. Enroll at Seasons of 7 for a semester. Think about all of the places that you can get help and really stop stressing about what you feel is a perceived inadequacy. So stop that. Remember, you're still the homeschool teacher. And then even as you're like moving from middle school into high school, again, it's the same thing. Like really just looking at where you've been. And now I will say with the Waldorf curriculum in class 8, there is a lot of history content. Often I don't get that finished until class 9. So really what I usually do when I'm moving from class 8 to class 9, or when I'm getting ready to plan for class 8, is I sort of look at class 8 and class 9 humanities together and decide where I'm putting those blocks, and just really look at them over a 2-year spectrum, because there is so much content. And then by the time I'm done with class 9, I'm done with that content as you move into like ancient cultures again in class 10. But really like look at those things and don't stress about them. Don't worry about cramming things in. And one thing I find about homeschoolers is often we will find opportunities that we want to deepen that they don't have the opportunity to do that in classrooms. So absolutely take that on. If there is something that really excites you or really excites your child, go after it. Have a good time, and don't stress so much about how much time it is actually taking. It's much better to just really feel into those lesson blocks than it is to stress about, oh no, we have to get this other thing done. Like I always am looking at, okay, well, we really want to go deeper. So what can I cut? What is there something that maybe I won't require as much writing over here. Maybe there's just 1 or 2 really big art pieces I'd like to see here and not so much over here. And that really helps you with this fluidity piece. So again, not scripted, not rigid. Look at the child in front of you, okay? Those are the most important pieces, the most important pieces. Okay, in our second segment, we're gonna talk about transcripts and college and actually some like detailed planning on what tools I like to use. So I hope you'll join us for that segment. All right, here we go. Thank you for joining us for this segment.
Have you heard of the Candle Access at Ariel's Light? This membership is perfect if you are looking for full-length podcasts and you want to catch the replays from the monthly gatherings. Your Candle Access also includes the Beacon files, which are 40+ hours of inner work content, as well as Biz Schooling for all the families homeschooling and running a business. There's the meditation series with the Introduction to Meditation, Meditation for the Parents, and Meditation for the Children, as well as our archive of 2023 with full-length podcasts and gathering replays. Join for only $5 a month at arielslight.org.